The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
And joining me on the podcast right now is Andrew Knott, CEO of Savannah Energy. SAVE is ticker there. Andrew, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Justin. How are you this morning?
Yes, good. And some interesting news from you. Agreement signed with Niger Government for the country's first wind farm. So foray into a new area here. Very exciting. We'll dig into that. Before we do, Andrew, for people maybe not familiar, as always, if you could, just give us a brief summary of what Savannah Energy is all about, please.
Yeah, so Savannah Energy, we're an AIM-listed energy company focused around projects that matter in Africa. By projects that matter, we mean projects that make a significant difference for the countries in which we operate. We're currently active in 4 countries: Niger, Nigeria, Chad, and Cameroon. And each of the projects that we have are of significant importance for those countries. We've previously published our business plan, which was set on a much lower macroeconomic pricing deck than is currently prevailing today. But on that price deck for the next 9 years, we anticipate generating about $280 million of free cash flow on average at the asset level that we have, and that excludes the announcement that we have today.
Yeah. So
we're a cash flow generative business focused in the energy industry, focused in Africa, and focused on projects that make a real difference to human development.
Yeah. So I'm going to read out the second line of that as well. So top of the RNS, agreement signed with Niger Government for country's first wind farm. I exclude the pronunciation here, but Parker Iliendataka is expected to be one of the largest wind farms in Africa. Wow. So take us into this, if you could, Andrew.
Okay, you don't have to worry about the pronunciation. all Parker Iliendataka means is the Tarka wind farm. So the the project is really a fantastic one. It's going to make a very significant difference to Niger and to Savannah. So from our perspective, it's our first renewable energy project. It's going to harness what we believe to be a world-class wind resource. So the World Bank has estimated the wind resource over 7 meters per second, which is clearly world-class, in the Tawa region of Niger. We expect in terms of size that the project will be up to 250 megawatts. To put that into perspective, that would increase Niger's on-grid national electricity consumption by 40%, 40. Wow. So it's a big upgrade in the reliability of the power system in the country. We'll create directly over 500 jobs, indirectly thousands of jobs. And there'll be a significant amount of CO2 emissions which should be avoided. We estimate 400,000 tonnes using the European Investment Bank's methodology. So the project is clearly very, very significant and has a lot of potential, both from the development of Niger but also for the development of Savannah. We expect to sanction the project in 2023, and first power generation should be in 2025. And as you rightly said, it'll be one of the largest wind projects in Africa, we believe.
Yeah. Go on, how are you going to fund this then, Andrew?
Well, I think funding for a project like this is pretty straightforward. So our company itself is going to be generating significant cash flow, so we have the ability to reinvest cash flow as required. But there's a pretty straightforward framework that's been put in place by developmental financing agencies for funding these projects. So similar to our other projects, we would expect a significant portion of project-specific debt, non-recourse to the parent company, coupled with an equity investment that would fund from our internally generated cash flows.
Yeah. I assume this is, like I said, a big project, and you're saying when it'll. So the next sort of milestone is next year. It'll be sanctioned. Then is it 2023?
So we expect it to be sanctioned in 2023 once we finalise the studies. The studies are really about confirming from a bankability basis. So as I said, there's a framework for putting in place the financing. Is getting all of the information required for the financing for the banks. So once that's been done and finalised in the correct form, then we'll move forward to sanction it and delivering the first power in 2025.
Yeah,
I do think though it's really important to talk about the importance of power though, because is fundamental to the development of any country. Academic study after academic study has consistently shown the relationship between power consumption, income levels, life expectancy, educational attainment. There's a very high degree of correlation between those four variables. Therefore, put simply, if you don't have power, you can't be rich, you can't live long, and you won't have a high degree of education. If you do have power, you will have those three things. And so a project like this, which is increasing the on-grid capacity by 40%, I would expect to have a very significant impact on the country of Niger itself. And these are the sorts of projects, as we've discussed before, that Savannah is involved in today and will continue to be involved in the future, both in the conventional energy and the renewable energy space. And one of the other things that we say very clearly is that this is the first project we expect to announce of many that the company is currently developing. And I think that's really important. Savannah is an operating company. So we actually physically operate our assets. We're in charge of our own destiny. We construct, we do everything. And you'll see many of our peers do not do that. We also therefore have the ability to identify and create projects from scratch, and we have the credibility to negotiate them with governments and then to attract the capital that's required to bring them on stream. And we have a clear pipeline of such opportunities that we're working on, and I hope to be able to talk about them in the near future. Yeah. And that's not just in the renewable space, in the conventional energy space as well. We also have a long pipeline of opportunities that we're pursuing.
Yeah. And like I say, it's, like I said, lots of, not just in this space, but in this space specifically as well, is a massively growing area. And so how long, this is quite a surprise, I suppose, for most investors, a welcome surprise for most investors. But how long does this kind of project take before you can announce it? How long have you been talking about this?
So we've been working on renewables now over the course of the past 12 months. I would say, though, that when we did our capital raise to acquire the Chad Cameroon assets, which are highly cash flow generative, in December last year, we were very, very clear about our intention to move into the renewable space. Yeah. Very, very clear about the potential scale of the opportunity that we see, and that we would be pursuing large-scale projects, not small-scale projects. From a business perspective, as a company, we very much believe in the revenue to hassles ratio. So what I mean by that is operating in challenging environments, you're going to have challenges, hassle. Yeah. So if you're going to take on the hassle, you're as well making sure that the benefits of the hassle, both to the local stakeholders, but also our shareholders, is commensurate. And therefore, our primary focus is on pursuing large-scale greenfield projects in the renewable space, and this is a prime example of that. We're not looking to do small-scale utility-type renewable energy projects. I mean, we would consider it if there was a clear strategic reason, as in there was a lot of repeatability associated with it, etc., etc. But our primary focus is on doing projects such as this, which are large-scale and meaningful for the countries in which we operate.
Yeah, absolutely. Marvellous stuff. Okay, Andrew. If you could then, 3 reasons why someone should hit that follow button on your page on Vox and add Savannah Energy to their watch list, please.
So, look, I think the first reason is the quality of our existing asset base and our track record for delivering projects on time, on budget. That really is something which is unique in our space and demonstrates a very strong corporate DNA and skill base, which I think is we're in a position to deliver significant value creation from. The second point is that our existing assets, all of them have significant upside. There's a lot of detail of that on our investor presentation on the website, whether it's our R3 East project in Niger, the exploration activity around that, whether it's additional customers and new opportunities in Nigeria, whether it's in the context of Chad Cameroon, adding new customers to the pipe asset, adding increasing production volumes. Vis-a-vis And then the third reason would be the inorganic opportunities. So in the conventional market, there's over $100 billion of announced divestments, which we believe we're in a prime position to take advantage of a portion of that in our African homeland. And then in the renewable space, we have a large pipeline of projects which we expect to execute upon. So I think you've got a solid existing base with a proven management team, proven access to capital, etc., strong growth within that existing asset base. And then we've also got the inorganic growth associated with, for example, new renewable greenfield energy projects and acquisitions of existing conventional assets. I mean, in our Niger business alone, we have $4.2 billion of contracted revenues. Nigerian business alone, we have $4.2 billion of contracted revenues. The Niger project, we estimate free cash flow per annum about $40 million once we get that on stream in the small case, the 5,000 barrel a day case. So the task that we now have a management team is just continuing and accelerating the delivery on the projects that we have. But I think when you lift the hood up for Savannah, you can see very clearly that we have a series of world-class assets and a track record of moving them forward and advancing them.
Yeah, marvellous stuff. Andrew, good to chat to you, and hopefully we'll be catching up in the not-too-distant future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would also urge your listeners, if you want to see what's happening in Savannah, we do operate in countries where the Western media maybe doesn't pick everything up. It makes a lot of sense to follow us on our Twitter feed, follow us on our LinkedIn feed, etc., etc. We are active on social media, highlighting the work that we do. So I would urge people who are interested in our business to pay attention to those.
Absolutely. Marvellous stuff. Andrew, thanks for that. Speak soon.
Bye.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.